Los Angeles evenings were always the same, glowing, alive, and full of rhythm. Neon lights flickered along the streets, a soft breeze rolled in from the ocean, and the whole city shimmered in its own golden light. In one quiet corner of that city, Ethan parked his car and walked toward a cafe. He carried his laptop bag in one hand and a faint smile on his face, though he looked tired. Ethan was an architect, a man who turned dreams into sketches and blueprints. He wanted many things in life, but above all, he longed for something he'd never found, a true connection, a relationship that wasn't built on money or fame, but on heart. Inside the cafe, soft music played in the background. Ethan sat by a window and ordered a coffee. A few minutes later, the door opened and a girl walked in, wearing a soft pink dress, her hair gently falling on her shoulders, and her eyes glowing with something mysterious. She was Elena Hudson, daughter of the well-known businessman James Hudson, the owner of one of Los Angeles's biggest hotel chains. She was a symbol of wealth, fashion, and success. But that evening, her face carried an unusual calmness, as if she was fighting an inner battle. Elena went to the counter, ordered her coffee, and looked around. Her eyes landed on Ethan, sitting quietly, lost in his sketches. She stared for a few moments. There was something different about him, his simplicity, his focus, his quiet charm. For the first time, Elena felt that maybe there was a world beyond the noise of luxury, a world where silence could be beautiful. Ethan sensed someone's gaze. When he looked up, his eyes met hers. For a second, time stopped. He smiled politely, and she smiled back. Moments later, Elena gathered the courage to approach him. "Can I sit here?" she asked softly. "The light here is better, and I want to write something too." "Of course," Ethan replied with a gentle smile. They sat across from each other, sipping coffee in silence, but it wasn't an awkward silence. It felt like words were being exchanged without being spoken. After a while, Elena broke the silence. "You seem deep in thought. Are you writing something?" Ethan closed his notebook and said, "Just sketching a few ideas. I'm an architect." Elena's eyes lit up. "Wow. So you turn dreams into buildings." Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, dreams, and sometimes pain too." That one line hit her heart. She smiled faintly, but went quiet. She knew what pain meant. Despite all the wealth around her, loneliness had been her shadow for years. Her father was always busy, and her mother had passed away long ago. She filled her emptiness with parties, friends, and glamour. But deep down, she was hollow. They kept talking about dreams, childhood, life, and little things that didn't seem important but somehow connected them deeply. Ethan found in her a warmth he hadn't known existed, and Elena found in him a peace she had longed for. When the evening ended, Elena said softly, "I don't know why, but tonight feels special. Maybe destiny wanted us to meet." Ethan smiled. "Maybe. Some meetings are written by fate itself." The next day, Elena couldn't stop thinking about him. She checked her phone again and again, hoping for a message, but they hadn't exchanged numbers. It was just a random cafe meeting, or maybe not so random. Finally, she decided to return to the cafe. And fate played its part again. Ethan was sitting there, same place, same calmness. "You came back," he said with a grin. She smiled. "Yeah, maybe I missed the taste of that coffee." They both laughed, and that was the beginning of something beautiful. Time passed. They started meeting more often, at the beach, in quiet streets, or at Ethan's small apartment where she'd watch him draw and say, "Your dreams are beautiful, Ethan. One day, you'll make it big." And he would look into her eyes and reply, "Only if you're there with me." Their friendship slowly turned into love. But love, in their world, was never simple. Elena's family, her status, her social circle, all stood like walls between them. One night, Elena invited Ethan to a party at her mansion. The place sparkled with lights, and people in elegant clothes moved around gracefully. Ethan felt out of place, but when Elena held his hand and whispered, "Don't be afraid. You're the most special person here for me," his heart calmed. But her father noticed them. His expression darkened. After the guests left, James Hudson called Elena to his study. "That boy doesn't belong in your world," he said sternly. "I don't want you wasting your time with him." Elena's voice trembled. "Dad, you don't know him. He's honest, kind." James cut her off. "Life isn't built on emotions, Elena. It's built on decisions." That night, she couldn't sleep. Her heart was torn. Should she listen to her father or her heart? Meanwhile, Ethan sat in his apartment, lost in thought. "I can make her happy," he whispered to himself, "but will her world ever accept me?" They both knew they loved each other deeply, but life had started testing them. There was a crack in their fairy tale, one that fate itself had drawn. Still, neither of them was ready to give up. Because they both believed, some bonds aren't written on paper. They're written in the soul. Late that night, a message popped up on Ethan's phone. "Meet me tomorrow. One last time." And just like that, a new chapter of their story was about to begin, one that would change their lives forever. The next morning, a gentle breeze swept across the beaches of Los Angeles. The sun had not yet fully risen, and golden light shimmered over the blue waves of the ocean. Ethan stood there quietly, lost in deep thought, holding a small gift in his hands, a wooden frame with a sketch of Elena he had drawn himself. Moments later, Elena arrived. She was wearing a white dress, her hair dancing in the wind, her face shadowed with sadness. She walked slowly toward him and said softly, "I don't want this moment to end, Ethan." Ethan smiled and replied, "Then let's not let it end." Tears welled up in her eyes. "My father doesn't agree," she whispered. "He says you're not good enough for me. I tried to make him understand, but he won't listen." Ethan looked out at the ocean in silence before saying, "Love isn't about worth or status, Elena. It's about feeling. If he can't see that now, maybe time will teach him." "I wish time was on our side," Elena said, her voice trembling. "But I don't want to be weak. I don't want to lose you." Ethan stepped closer and said gently, "Elena, if our love is real, no wall can separate us. We'll fight together." She held his hands tightly. In that moment, the world seemed to stand still. Only the sound of the sea and their hearts beating could be heard. Days passed. Elena decided she wouldn't go directly against her father, but she would keep meeting Ethan in secret. They met at beaches, cafes, and small gardens outside the city. Ethan would bring her little gifts, sometimes a flower, sometimes chocolate, sometimes a sketch from his notebook. Elena fell even deeper in love with his simplicity. She would tell him, "There's peace in your words, Ethan. When you're near, I feel like I'm in the real world." And he would smile and reply, "When you're near, my world feels complete." Their love grew stronger with each passing day. But the world wouldn't stay silent. Elena's father began to suspect that she was still seeing Ethan. One night, he checked her phone, and every secret came out. That evening, chaos filled their mansion. James Hudson's voice thundered, "You're ruining my name. An ordinary architect? What has happened to you, Elena?" She stood her ground, her eyes wet but defiant.
"He's not ordinary, Dad.
"He's real. He's everything to me." James slammed his hand on the table. "If you ever speak to him again, I'll throw you out of this house." Elena burst into tears but said firmly, "If staying in this house means losing my heart, then I'll leave." Her father locked her in her room that night. She cried until dawn. Meanwhile, Ethan grew restless when her phone stayed off. The next day, he went to her mansion, but the guard at the gate stopped him. "I just need to see her once," Ethan pleaded. The guard's tone was cold. "Miss Hudson isn't allowed to see you. Her father's orders." Ethan walked away, crushed. That night, he opened his laptop and started a new project, Elena's dream house. It was the home he had imagined for them, a place with no walls to divide love, where only peace and warmth lived. Months passed. Elena's father arranged her engagement to a wealthy businessman, Daniel Rowe. Elena was helpless. She tried to contact Ethan several times, but every way was blocked. Then one day, a friend told her that Ethan's new architectural design was being exhibited at a large gallery in Los Angeles. Disguised, Elena went there. When she saw the model titled Elena's Dream House, tears streamed down her face. She realized Ethan had turned his love into a dream made of art. At that very moment, Ethan entered the gallery. Their eyes met, a moment silent, yet filled with everything unspoken. Ethan said softly, "I built the house I promised you, but maybe you'll never live in it." Elena stepped closer, her voice trembling with love. "I will, Ethan, even if I have to go against the world." And that night, they made a decision. They would run away. Forever. Night had spread its deep silence across the skies of Los Angeles. The streets were deserted, and only the faint whisper of the wind could be heard. Elena packed her small bag. She took only a photograph, a necklace, and the little note Ethan had once given her. Love is never imprisoned, it only waits. Ethan was waiting for her near the shore in his old car. His heart was pounding fast. Every passing second felt like an eternity. At exactly midnight, Elena slipped out through the back door of her house. The moonlight touched her face. Her eyes carried both fear and hope. She ran toward Ethan's car, and as she opened the door, he looked at her and whispered, "We're free now." The car sped along the coastal road. Both of them were silent, but their faces shared the same feeling, a mixture of peace and fear. Ethan said softly, "Elena, we'll start a new life, in another city with new names." Elena took his hand gently and replied, "I'm with you, even if the world ends." But fate had another test waiting for them. As they crossed the city's edge, a phone rang. It was Elena's father. Ethan glanced at it, but Elena stopped him. "Don't answer. They'll find us." Ethan pressed harder on the accelerator. The road was empty, the night dark. Suddenly, flashing lights appeared ahead, police cars. Her father must have reported them. Instead of stopping, Ethan turned down another road. The speed was too high. Elena shouted, "Ethan, slow down, please." He replied, "We're almost there, just a little more." But destiny had its own plan. At a sharp turn, the car lost control and crashed straight into a tree. Moments later, silence fell. Rain had begun to pour. Ethan, barely conscious, turned his head. Blood trickled down Elena's forehead. He grabbed her hand and whispered, "Elena, open your eyes. I won't let anything happen to you." She slowly opened her eyes and smiled faintly. "I'm fine, just tired. Promise me, build that dream house." Tears mixed with the rain on Ethan's face. He said brokenly, "That house will be empty without you." Elena whispered weakly, "Love is never empty, Ethan, it stays in the heart." Those were her last words. Her breath stopped. Ethan held her in his arms and screamed, but only the rain heard him. Minutes later, the police arrived. Ethan lay injured and unconscious. Elena was gone forever. Months passed. Ethan survived, but his soul did not. After leaving the hospital, he built the dream house just as she wanted, but no one lived there. On one wall, he wrote, "Some dreams never die, they just live in silence." Months turned into years, yet for Ethan, time seemed to have stopped. The same streets of Los Angeles, the same stretch of ocean, everything looked the same, except for one thing. Elena was no longer there. He often came to that same shore at night, the place where he had last held her hand. The moonlight danced over the waves, and in his heart echoed only one voice, "I'm with you, even if the world ends." Ethan had changed the purpose of his life. He founded an organization named the Elena Hope Foundation, dedicated to helping girls who struggled to chase their dreams. People saw him as a successful man, but inside his heart was an empty space that belonged only to Elena. One day, he returned to the house that had once been their shared dream. Her pictures still hung on the walls, and the air still carried the fragrance she used to wear. Ethan placed a small box on the table. Inside was a ring he had bought for Elena, but never had the chance to give her. He whispered softly, "I know you can hear me, Elena. You never left, you live in every breath I take." A gentle breeze passed through the room, as if someone smiled while leaving. A faint smile appeared on Ethan's lips. He looked up at the sky and said, I kept my promise. The house we dreamed of, it's real now. A few days later, Ethan built a small park in the garden of his foundation. At its center stood a wooden bench, and on it a brass plaque engraved with the words, "Love never dies. It just changes its form." People often came there to sit, feeling a strange peace in the air, as if someone's prayer still echoed there. And perhaps, somewhere beyond the sky, Elena's soul was smiling. She was happy because her love was no longer just a memory, it had become a story. A story that taught every heart one eternal truth. Love never ends, it only becomes eternal with time.